Who says that you have to go to church? In this session, we're going to unlearn American individualism. If you grew up in the United States of America like I did, you may not realize just how much of an individual you are, how much we think me before we think we, and maybe, just maybe, thinking about me is what's holding me back. So let's jump in.
Welcome. We're so glad you're with us and so thankful to have our friends with us here today. Thanks for being here. We're going to start with this question. What's the best thing you've ever experienced at church? Best thing you've ever experienced at church? Yeah.
The best thing at the first worship service of Vineyard, I really felt home and felt a sense of community.
Yeah, that's good. Who else? Yeah.
I would say that I have a before Christ life and after Christ. And when I became a Christian, joy without the need of an extra substance like alcohol or drugs.
That's good. Who else? Yeah.
My name is Sheila, and the praise and worship is awesome. You really feel the presence of God.
Yeah, that's good. What about over here? Anybody over here? Yeah.
I'm Dina, volunteering.
I bet it's at the Healing Center, wasn't it?
At the Healing Center.
Yeah. Who else?
The love that I felt when I first walked into the Vineyard, all of the people were so kind and very loving towards me.
Yeah. Yeah.
The aha moments in both the services and the women's group Bible studies. Every time I'm here, I learn something.
Yeah. You know, when you're a part of a church, you get that experience where you sense the presence of God in worship, or you have an aha moment, you sense the love of other people. But I want us to think in a different way. Maybe there's something here we need to unlearn. I want to ask you this question. Who says that you have to go to church? Think about this. Who says that you have to go to church? Spoiler alert, not Jesus. He never taught that we should go to church. I know I'm messing with your mind right now. If you've been around the church for a while, you'll have to bear with me as I make fun of us church people for just a minute. There's some ways that we talk about faith that I guess it makes sense at face value, but when you dig a little deeper, it kind of makes you wonder, especially evangelical Christians, or those of us who go to non-denominational churches like Vineyard Cincinnati. We talk a lot about ourselves individually. To be more specific, we talk about only ourselves. We talk about our personal relationship with Jesus. We learn how to do personal Bible study. We engage in our personal prayer life. And we're quick to defend our own personal form of spirituality. Did you know in America right now, there are less and less people going to church? Now, that's not surprising to you, but the surprising part is that the Christians who are going to church are going to church less and less as believers in Jesus. If someone tells me they're not a church person, which I've heard before, I don't expect to see them at church, right? But the Christians, I kind of expect them to be at church. You say, what's up? Well, for one thing, it's very American. I mean, to think in terms of me and not in terms of we. In a world of Spotify and Pandora, I can sing worship songs all by myself in my car. I get to pick the songs that I actually like. I always agree on the songs that I pick for me. And, churches are streaming their services online these days, right? And I can watch the sermon from the most comfortable place in my house. I mean, I personally can't, but we can as Christians. I can experience the beauty and majesty of God way better on a walk in the woods by myself than I can inside a church building. So we're taught by both words and the actions of others in our culture to keep to ourselves. Put up a strong front. Never let them see you sweat. Definitely don't ever talk about personal finances. If you've got a problem, figure it out. You don't ask anybody else for help. You're just going to be bothering them. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Everyone else will do the same for themselves. In the suburbs, we go to work, then we come home, we pull our cars into our garage and we shut the door and we stay in our houses away from people. When someone knocks on your door, you can't imagine who it is. You don't really want to be around other people. A lot of times in our culture, we can become so isolated and alone. Maybe a wave to that guy, on the street as you're passing by. What's his name? I don't really know. Never mind. I'm going to my garage, right? This is our culture. It's me. It's mine. It's my time. And I make up my own mind. I pull myself up by my own bootstraps. You do your thing. I'll do my thing. This individualism isn't really serving us well. You know what's up in our culture? Loneliness, anxiety, and a real desire for meaningful connection that we're missing. So back to the topic of church. If I can do everything that happens at church on any given Sunday in the privacy of my own home, why bother to get cleaned up, spend gas money, and spend the time to even go to church? I barely go to the store anymore. Like, we order it online. Amazon will bring it to your door. It's click it and go and get it and go back into your garage, right? Anyway, if I go to church, it's to develop my relationship with God. Did you hear that? It's very subtle. I'm developing my relationship with God. So, back to this question. Who says I have to go to church? Not Jesus. He never taught that we should go to church. So we're off the hook, right? Kind of. Every month at Vineyard Cincinnati, the staff gets together for our all-staff meeting. And at these meetings, one staff member shares their story. The rules are that they have 10 minutes to share anything they want about their life. But they must include how they came to faith in Jesus and how they ended up on staff at the church. One staff member shared that he was, for many years, a deist. He believed there was some kind of God out there somewhere, but it probably didn't matter at all. And he had this drop the mic moment when he said, "But now I work at a church." And he said, "My former version of myself would be appalled." I mean, he said it in such a funny, deadpan way, but the real reason there was so much laughter in the room was that most of us feel the exact same way. What am I doing in church? I'm not sure what it means anymore when someone says, "I'm not a church person," because most people in our church didn't think of themselves as church people either. But here you are in church, somewhat surprised, as I am, to be here. Maybe we're not being surprised by church. Maybe we're being surprised by what God is doing in us and what He has us doing. Jesus said, "I will build my church." He wasn't talking about a building. He was talking about people. Church is a gathering word. It's a gathering word when you think about it. You have a litter of kittens. You have a gaggle of geese, a crash of rhinos. You didn't know that. A gang of elk, a pack of wolves, and a church of believers that you hope are not a pack of wolves, right? Jesus said He was going to build people. And how was He going to do this? He's going to gather them all over the world. You see, you can't go to church because it's not a building or a place. Church is a gathering of believers. Maybe this is something that we need to unlearn. Instead of going to church, realize that we are the church. I know it's a bit of a technicality, but you get the point. Church is not buildings. It's not programs. It's not classes or rituals or small groups or candles. All of these things exist, sure. But church is a people word. More specifically, wherever those people are gathered. Therefore, it's really impossible to be a part of what Jesus is building by yourself, all alone. It would be like saying you're on a sports team, but you never go to the practices or the games. It would be like saying, "Oh yes, I'm a part of the marching band in my bedroom, alone." No, it doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't make any sense. Most Christian people I talk to, they wouldn't say to me, "Oh, I'm a church person." It all actually started with some kind of curiosity about God That's why in Ecclesiastes 3:11, it says, He has set eternity in the human heart. See, we were created hardwired to want to know who God is. And so they'd say they became a Jesus person. I identify with Jesus, not necessarily a church person. But that's why they're actually involved, and that's why so many of us are involved in church. You can't go to church because if you're a believer and follower of Jesus, then the church actually is you, and you are the church. Jesus is building His church. Jesus died for His church. Jesus is accomplishing His purpose and mission on the earth through His church. And Jesus, this is great news. Who is He coming back for? He's coming back for His church. So here's just two more brief thoughts before we go to some questions. First, did you know that just about every place the word you appears in the New Testament, that it's plural? It's plural. In other words, and I love this, when you see you in the New Testament, it's really saying y'all. This is a Kentucky thing or a Texas thing, I'm not sure, maybe both. Almost every time you see the word you in the New Testament, it's referring to a group of people. When you think this verse is about me, it's actually about us together. I finished with this thought. If you really want to know the purpose for your life, if you really want to know the purpose for your life, then connecting with the God who made you and gave you certain abilities and talents is going to be pretty important. You're not a mistake. God made you uniquely you, and then on top of that, He gave you talents and gifts, and He placed those inside of you. There's stuff you're good at and stuff that you're simply made to do. Do you know why? Because Jesus is building His church, and He wants you and He wants me to be involved in it. 1 Corinthians 12, we're told, our gifts are given to each of us so we can help each other. Then the analogy is drawn of the human body that has many parts, but the many parts make up one whole body. And all the parts need all the other parts. So, who's to say you have to go to church? You already know this, not Jesus. He says that if you believe in Him and want to follow Him, that you are the church. That's a whole different ballgame. This is unlearning what we think about church. If you consider yourself a church person, how did you end up that way? This is where I want to go now. If you consider yourself, think about the fact that you are a church person. If you consider yourself a church person, how did you end up here? How did you end up that way? This is what we'll talk about.
I'm Tim. I would say that how I wound up here is all her fault.
Okay, wait. How many of you have somebody in your life that you can blame that you're a church person? They brought you to church? Okay. This happens a lot, Tim. You're not the first man to come to church because of a woman. I can tell you that.
Yeah, so in all seriousness, we had been going through a rough patch in our relationship, and I also had been searching for quite some time for a better life or a better something. Didn't know quite what it was. And so I knew it was worth a shot to try church. And I knew that she was going to ask me sooner or later, will you go to church with me? And so I just brought the subject up and I said, I know you're going to ask, so I'm going to tell you right now, I'll go to church with you. And as long as I feel like I'm getting something out of it, I'll keep going to church with you. And 4.5 years later, I'm still here.
We're glad you're here. That's cool. You're a church person, for sure. Yeah.
Well, my name is Shondell, and I gave my life to Christ, I'll say about a year. I did mention that I grew up Pentecostal, but when I truly accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior and acknowledged that I've died with Him once I gave my life to Him and that I was reconciled, and just to really see the joy that came out of everything once I gave my life to Him. Not knowing that I'm the only Christian in my family, but just to show that to them as well so that they could come to Christ. And since I planted here, got half of my family involved.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing. Who else? Yeah, here.
I'm Jeff, and I'm a pretty strong introvert. So I would be content going off in the woods every Sunday morning or staying at home and just being alone. But I found time and time again that life really is better done together, that I have something to give and offer up to the body, and other people have something to give to me as well and challenge me to grow.
That's good. That's good. Who else? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Duilio, and I remember coming home from partying all night, hearing my mom praying for me in her room, and so it took 7-8 years to finally God answering her prayers. And when I became a Christian, the next day I told my dad, we need to have a small group. I need to know what this book says. It was a change like that. And I remember reading the Bible till 3-4 in the morning because I needed it to know. But it was because of my mom.
When I say that church is a team sport, when I say church is a team sport, what does that bring to mind?
My name is Al, and when I hear the word team and church being a team sport, it brings to my mind that we're all here. Well, first of all, we're on his team, and he is the captain of our team. But we all have a part to play, and we're all a part of a diverse team. We might not all have the same gifts, we might not all have the same abilities, but when we all come together and play together on his team, then we become very victorious. Yeah. And so that's the beautiful fact about being a part of even Vineyard, is because we are a diverse team that's led by a powerful captain, and we will be victorious, and we are victorious.
That's wonderful. Who else? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Amanda, and when I think about playing for the team, I think of sometimes I've been on the bench, and then sometimes I think how Jesus calls us to get off that bench and play the game with him. And so I think of a team. Sometimes you can be on the bench, take that breather, but you need to sometimes step up to be that team player for the team.
That's good. That's good. Who else? Team sport. Yeah.
My name is Eric, and I find when I'm engaged in a game and playing with someone, there's quick correction on the fly, but I'm less critical and judgmental of others because I understand sometimes I miss the pass or I mess up as well. So being on the team and serving means you're all working towards the common good, but you're not spending your time criticizing and judging others.
Yeah, that's good. Who else? Yeah.
Since I've come to know Christ more, I realize that I have a whole new group of people that I can contact and that will support me, and in a more positive, communicative way. So before it was a totally different group of people, but now I have brothers and sisters that I would have never thought to call that I know will support me and point me in the right direction.
There's something that we really need one another. And this comes as a surprise to some of us brought up in this culture where we can be so isolated. And you get around brothers and sisters in Christ, and you're encouraging and exhorting one another, holding one another accountable, and you have that humble realization like, I really need this. And you say, I like Jesus's idea of us being in church. This is a good idea that the captain has. Yeah, who else wants to share on that? What it means to be on a team, this team sport.
I'm Kate, and I think that it means engagement and movement, and that we're already inherently, by accepting Jesus into our hearts, on the team. We don't need to earn our place on the team, that we're actually in it, but it does require action from us. It does require us, as Amanda said, to get off the bench and get on the field and take that action.
Yeah, we've been selected and chosen. Didn't you hate when you were in grade school and they didn't choose you, they didn't pick you? Listen, you're all chosen in all of your groups. God has selected you to be on the team. You have a distinct role to play. We need you and you need us. We need one another. This is something we really need to unlearn. This idea that we're all alone, no, we're in this together. We're hoping that you have a great discussion in your group today. And thanks so much for being with us today, y'all.